So I was just getting breakfast with one of my four players for the new campaign I'm starting, or that I started in Eberron. And so recently they conquered their first, little villain. They are going into like my big plot, and they leveled up from level 3, which was their starting level, to level 4. And one of my players tells me today, he goes, yeah, so I was at my desk for 3 hours yesterday on a spreadsheet calculating D&D stats. Is this what it's always like? And I was like, Jesus, I can't believe you spent that amount of time. Like, what did you figure out? He's telling me about like all the different builds he found, and like and all of his stats and everything, and like what he wants to take in the future. He's like, yeah, at level 8 I can have this. And I was like, whoa, hold the phone. That's like 2 or 3 months away at the minimum. But I thought it was so cool because it reminded me of like when we would sit in our dorm room in college, and we would just talk about those things like for hours on end. And I'm like, yeah, this guy was by himself all day yesterday and literally just planned for his character in D&D. He's not even the DM. Like, I do as much planning for the session as he did for his character yesterday.
Yeah, no, that reminds me of, way back in college, we would, theory craft and talk about, well, I might do this at the next level, or, next session we have to strategize because our DM's going to kill us. But I distinctly remember as well just opening up my OneNote, and I had a whole, plan for my character progression for this campaign that we ultimately never got past level 7. But I was like, all right, I'm going to go X amount of levels Ranger, and then I'm going to dip into Fighter for a few levels and pick up this feat, and then I'm going to go back to Ranger, and these are all the spells that I'm going to pick. And like I mapped it all out just because I was so excited thinking about it. So yeah, wow. I haven't done anything like that in years, I think.
Yeah, no, I hadn't thought about it because, like, literally having a brand new group, especially an in-person group where I can see everybody's reactions. It's a lot easier to DM, I would say, in person, just because it's more organic. And so having that in-person group, I was like, man, this really, like, I feel like Yarrick right now, where like I'm kind of casually just like, yeah, no, I know these things, and like I'm kind of nonchalant about it, and they're all like, literally, they thanked me. They were like, "Thank you so much for like running this game for us," and I was like, "Yeah, no problem, I guess." Like I was like, I like doing this, so I don't want to not do it.
Yeah, exactly. But when you're a new player, it seems like the DM is just this all powerful being who must have studied for years and years to get to this level of whatever. And it only takes a few years of playing to realize, oh, no, that's all bullshit. And even when we started, Lanky Eric had only been playing for a few months before
exactly.
We met. So,
and I remember, I distinctly remember telling you, I was like, yeah, he just feels like he knows everything.
Yeah, exactly.
I said those words to you. I was like, yeah, it just feels like he knows everything. And you were like, well, not really. He just knows about these couple of things. And I was like, still, that's a lot. So yeah, having these first time players who, one, don't understand like action economy and power balance and everything like that is probably the most refreshing part to me, because I don't have to worry. Like, I did not have to worry about my villains at all. Nor did I need to soup him up in the way that I did. I was like, man, he would have been a villain without his cool shadow step abilities, because they missed a lot of attacks. They made decisions, like they wasted spell slots on spells that like would work theoretically if everybody failed their save, like Calm Emotions, right? They wasted spell slots on that kind of stuff. I had a layer action that I don't use layer actions often, so I'm trying to get into it more. And I had a layer action go off where for 1 round until the end of the Shadow Master's next turn, a magical darkness like seeps around this like one altar that he's near. So him and all his like compatriots can see through this magical darkness because they have like fail safes for it. Like the minions have like glasses and stuff they could fold down that could see through the magical darkness. And then but none of the players could. So all of a sudden there's their spot that's in torchlight and everything else is dark around them. And so it was this cool moment where like the fighter is fighting the Shadow Master in the dark, realizes this is bad for me, runs back to back with the party of like, let's all stand here because this is the only spot we can see in, and they're all just surrounded by magical darkness. And I was like, this is awesome. This is going great. Only one player went down, and yeah, it was a fun experience for a little intro thing, and then I sent you my cool Eberron snippet of like, hey, here's where I kind of want the next like 5 to 8 sessions to go, depending on how long they take to do things. And I'm very excited to get into that stuff, because I think by the time they're done with all of that, they could be like level 6, going on 7 later. And that's just cool to me. I'm excited to be running something brand new, especially because I wanted to do Eberron a while back, but I didn't have the means to, because we have to finish our Forgotten Realms campaign and then do a Spelljammer campaign that I want to do.
Yeah, but we'll keep Eberron in the back of our minds, and it'll come up at some point. If you don't run it, then I'll make it happen, because I definitely don't feel like I've gotten my fill of Eberron at all.
Eberron might be my favorite setting, to be honest. Like, after all the books that I've read through some of the Dragonlance stuff too, and watched videos on Dragonlance. I think Eberron and Corvair as a planet, and like the history they provide you, and the fact that most campaigns start in this 2 to 3 year time span after the last war, just provides like so much for you to do. And you can obviously play with that setting how you want, have it be during the last war or be like way after the last war. But I don't know. I just based on lore and everything and how interested I am in that vibe, it might be my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I am inclined to agree with you. I really like the way that they handle religion, too, in Eberron, where it's the gods aren't physical beings that you can, see, typically. So it's, people derive magic from faith, because faith is a powerful thing, but it's not necessarily, set in stone that the gods are what's bestowing this power. It might be closer to a paladin's, strength of will or whatever. So cool stuff there. And I like how the creation myth sort of works itself into like the whole of how everything works in Eberron. Because there's Eberron, just like we've seen in Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, it's a dragon-centric, beginning of the world. And Eberron is like, one dragon, and then there's the dark dragon that she defeated that became the Underdark. And so Eberron is the world, like the overworld. The evil dragon, I'm forgetting its name, is the Underdark. And then there's another dragon that became the stars and space and astral bodies and all that.
Yeah, see, I haven't taken the time to learn all of that. Mostly right now I'm dealing with how the dragon marked houses work and how many there are and like notable people in them, because only because it's the one house I knew, House Orion, because we played in it. I only started taking them through House Orion stuff because I knew stuff about House Orion, and then I'm making it relate to other houses. So like House Cannith is going to be heavily involved in my plot, and then a bunch of the like underworld, like the not criminal organizations, but just like the intelligence organizations and stuff that kind of keep what happened in the morning subdued.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, because I think this is my one issue with Eberron, is the dragon marked houses really seem super important, and they give you all like these player options that deal with those. Did you give those options to your players for their races? Like,
absolutely not.
Okay, yeah. I feel like that's the one thing that I would like shy away from if I were using Eberron for a new group. Is it just, when you give them all of these options and they ask, all right, well, what's the difference? It just seems like homework for the first. The
only thing I told him was, I said, hey, you guys have the option to play Warforged if you want. If you see something you like in the Eberron book, go ahead and check it out. They all opened the player's handbook, were like, I am this, and that was it.
Cool.
So like they were all, I think it was pretty daunting, because I was like, hey, you guys can use anything from player's handbook. If you need something specific, check out Tasha's. Like, if there's something you're looking for that's extremely specific that's not in the player's handbook, ask me and I'll find you an option in Tasha's. And then I said, here's Eberron if you want some background on Eberron. there are player character options in here, but don't let them like take over your mind, you know?
Yeah.
So I gave them like copies of the 3 books and we're like, check these out. Really go with the player's handbook options, and then if there's something hyper specific that like you're really into, we'll make it work.
Yeah, again, I just think the dragon marked houses are so specific that you really can't get into them in session 0. So like the way that you've done it, where you sort of started them with they're working for House Orion and they're going to build relationships with people of other houses, that makes sense to me to sort of ease them into it.
Yeah, it's like being thrown into. It's like seeing a cutscene at the beginning of a video game and like knowing like, hey, this is kind of the world we're in, and then being thrown into your first mission where you already have your weapon out and you're firing. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
And that was helpful to one of my players who's like brand new. He's never played before. His turns take as long as Chase's. And so
Sorry, Chase.
He's sitting there for like 5 minutes determining things. It was funny because one of my players the other day, I was talking about a session I had with you guys, and I was like, yeah, one of my players like sometimes like we'll go through combat really quick, and sometimes, you know, it's super thought out and it takes a while. And they were like, oh, like Army Eric, and I was like, no, not like him. I was like, because these players have been playing for 6 years and he's been playing for 12 days. I was like, there's a big difference. I was like, he'll learn and he'll get into it. But yeah, it's really a wild experience going back to ground zero. And the crazy thing is, a year from now, when I'm fluent in Chinese, I won't be here around these people anymore, and I'll probably have to do it again when I find more new people.
Yeah, that's the DM's curse. Well, especially for you, since you're meeting new people all the time. You'll have to find a new group.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a big deal though, because of course. Anyways, 1 second. Welcome to TableTalk Friday. My name is Seth Pittman. I'm joined by only Zachary Carvon this week. How are you doing, my boy?
I'm doing great. I've got a day off work, and I've just been doing some laundry and nothing else in particular. So I'm having a nice, restful, relaxed day. But I'm super excited to be talking about D&D with you, and that's that on that.
Yeah. On my end, I'm also going to do laundry after we finish recording this. I also don't have any school today, and I have 3 pages of translation homework that I have sitting in front of me that I've been working on. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 9 more translations I have to do. And the hard thing about that is I have to write them out in characters. I can't just like type them or like write them out in Pinyin, which is the Romanized version of the characters. No, I have to write these characters. So my strategy has been typing out the sentence in Chinese on my computer and then writing down whatever I typed, because the characters are so much easier to pop up when you type them out digitally first.
Yeah, you're a little cheater, but yeah, you'll commit it to memory. That's why you're there.
That's why I'm here. That's why they pay me the money. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about today, though, because we're going to be talking about the difference between veteran players and brand new players, because this is something that's been heavy on my mind lately as I'm teaching new people how to play D&D for either the first time or they've never played something that's longer than a few weeks, so they're not used to going through a long thought out story and treating their characters seriously, like serious narrative, like I don't even know what to call it, but just like actual consequences for their actions and everything, things that don't just last in one session, which is something that took us a little bit to get into, because we had some joking around at first. We had a character named Snagglepuss. We played a lot of like little one-shot sessions that were like our canon characters, but they felt like filler episodes. And now going through this, my brand new player does have a joke name. His name is Ted Ben Frederick III, I believe. It's just like Ted Ben Fred, and so I just call him Ted Ben, and that's just who he is. And it's weird because I see that in the person where they're like, oh, this is like Skyrim. You can name your character whatever you want, except you don't have any rules, right?
Yeah,
but
of course.
But it's not like that, because then they learn, oh, wait, there's like narrative consequences to this.
Right. Well, and there are different kinds of players of D&D, and there are different kinds of tables, but especially the way that we play, you learn pretty quick that you can be a silly character, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's going to be more satisfying to play a character that has places to, develop and grow and, interact with the other party members in a meaningful way. So
Exactly.
You can be a joke character, but you don't really want to, like, have everyone be a joke character, necessarily.
And I think the person who pulls off joke characters better than anybody and also has them be a narrative plot device is Sean. Like, no one does it better than he does. Like, every time he brings out a character where I'm like, you're not going to play that for 60 sessions, are you? And he's like, yeah, I am. And then it ends up being the best thing ever. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't believe in you, and now I do.
Yep, that's Barrel in a nutshell.
Yeah, Barrel in a nutshell. I feel like Newth could have been that way too, like from time to time.
Newth was funny though in how serious he was.
Yeah,
because he was just so intimidating, and like Sean made a point when playing Newth to just describe the way that he fights, and especially the way that like he kills, to be just so vile and graphic. But then he's also like a surprisingly interesting conversationalist.
Yeah.
And, he has very interesting thoughts, and, he'd always talk about things his dad taught him and, and whatever. So it was a fun juxtaposition.
Yeah, that brings me to a talking point, because so far I do have my players, whenever I can, describe the way they do things. But right now, a lot of times they try to describe it in this like over the top gruesome way, like, oh, I cut his body in half, I cut his arm off or whatever. And I'm like, okay, hold the phone. That is still crazy to see. Like, whenever you're not playing, like, Newth was meant for that, right? He was a character built to do things like that. It's different than that. And then like a character like Pyth, like our current wizard in our other campaign, firing a firebolt and being like, oh, and his brain goes everywhere, blah, 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 and so I didn't, obviously I haven't said no or like stop my player from doing something like that, but that's one of those things where I'm seeing those beginning little tendencies of like, I can do whatever I want. I cut him in half when he's just a regular minion, on the ground. It's not like, oh yeah, I hit him, get a good slice in, he goes unconscious, falls to the ground, he's probably dead. But also, they aren't nearly as good at describing their own actions. So, like, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to fire my bow at him. And then I'll be like, oh, how do you do that? And then they try to explain it, and then I have to, like, come in and, like, pick it up and make it sound really cool. And one of them did tell me, he was like, you always describe that so well. And I was like, well, that's just, I want it to seem like I want you to see it in your head like it's an anime, like a show.
Yeah, please, I'm the forever DM. Half my job is just describing how things look.
Yeah, for real. So yeah, and I don't know. I am finding that, some of the players are on the more casual side, where they're just like, yeah, I'm just going to show up every week and I'm just going to enjoy it, which is kind of how I treat whenever I play. I just kind of play. And then others are like my player I was talking about earlier, he's very much like into it. He's in the nitty gritty. He wants the numbers. And that's really cool to see, because he's really into tracking and figuring out, okay, I have these 24 options for feats. Which one is going to be the most optimal for me? Because I basically told him, hey, you have permission to like power game. I'm not a stranger to having a power gamer around.
That's so when you say that, like he really gets crunchy, is he like calculating damage and making tables and like going through one by one for all that shit?
I'm not sure. I know for a fact, like, he was like, do you think the tough feat or the heavy armor feat is better? Because you only get, at level 4, you get 8 hit points with the tough feat, and all you have to do is get hit 3 times with heavy armor master in order for it to pay off more than the tough feat. And I was just basically like, I don't know. I was like, I like tough because it gives me just a bigger number for hit points. And heavy armor master just comes in handy whenever you are getting in a lot of up close combat. But if you're fighting wizards all the time, then heavy armor master is not going to be as great.
Valid, yeah. To any of you at home wondering what is the more optimal option, like you said, Seth, if you're fighting wizards or people who are doing magical bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing, then tough is probably the better way to go. But if you're just fighting a bunch of non-magical weapon wielding grunts, then Heavy Armor Master is going to get you more bang for your buck in the long term. And that's one of my favorite feats ever since like the very beginning. I've always wanted to have that whenever I can, because I'm a big fan of dudes in armor.
I don't want to spoil anything for them, but they're going to be fighting a lot of humanoid people for a while. I mean, there will be monsters, but they're going to be fighting some humanoid people in this fantasy New York. Oh, man. Now, one thing that I'm a big fan of is whenever I give, like right now they don't know a whole lot, so they don't have as much like occupying their brain when it comes to fantasy. So one thing that I find is instead of like, I'll say one thing and they latch onto it. So like I mentioned that a lot of the noble houses and like nobles will carry around a feather token because Sharn, lifts high into the sky, right? And so if someone was to fall, they have a feather token on them to keep them alive. And when I mentioned that, one of my players, like, the big thing for his backstory is like, yeah, I know this war went on. A lot of people like migrated into Sharn after that happened. I've been in Sharn my whole life, and he doesn't really like the new people that have come in, And so what he does is he'll sneak around the area where new nobles have moved to Sharn and steal their feather tokens.
That's such a dick move.
Yeah, that was like part of his backstory. So he was like, "How many feather tokens do I have on me right now?" And I was like, "You'll have one on you right now, and then we'll see where you get them in the future." And then he found one more on a noble later.
Which, just for those of you at home that may not be super familiar with Eberron, feather tokens are single-use magic items that just automatically cast Featherfall if you start falling, and it's just on yourself. But people in Sharn need those because Sharn is, a huge city built into the sky. With these massive towers, and there are catwalks running between all the different super tall buildings. So people need those to avoid falling to their deaths on occasion.
Yeah, and one thing I would probably recommend to our listeners at home is it's really cool to do a new setting with a new group. Only because like I'm learning along with them about Eberron, where like I chose to start their mission outside of outside of Sharn so that I could bring them into Sharn, so they could have that first glimpse at the city that they're going to be living in for a while. And so I thought of that at first. I was like, I would like for them to start on the lightning rail outside of Sharn on a mission. And so they go out there, they take down a Dask leader, and then they come back to Sharn in order to report, right? But I wanted them to have that moment in session 3 where we're starting out, they're riding the lightning rail into the city, and I get to describe for the first time what this city looks like to them.
Yeah, sort of the beautiful thing about playing with new people too is you're not going to have anyone who says, "Oh, well, that's not what Sharn looks like." My other DM ran me through this same adventure. And he said that blah 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 blah. Like, yeah, you get the wonderment of newborn puppies from some new players because regardless of what you say, if they haven't played the game before or they haven't seen this setting before, then you can make it all up however you want, and you could even run your own homebrew setting super easily just because no one really has any expectations for what the world should or needs to be at that stage. So I do like running D&D for newer players the few times that I have for that exact reason. You can basically, you say something and everyone believes you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The one thing is, like, I know that some of them have a little bit of D&D experience here and there, but they haven't done like long storylines or anything like that. So I'm curious to see what that looks like in the future, and if they stick with it. Because when you have new groups come in, you always have people fall in, fall out. So
yeah, for sure.
I'm curious to see what that's like going forward. But they all seem very excited, so I'm in for it as long as they are. And then when it comes to like our veteran group, I found that we're very much in like the clockwork stage where it's like I'm ready for the session as long as everybody can show up every single time. And that's always nice because D&D has become like a very comfortable thing for me to know I'm doing every single week. No matter if it's like, oh yeah, I know I've got my campaign that I'm running here, whether you're running Out of the Abyss, whether any of that stuff, I know for a fact. I'm like, yeah, we're definitely gonna be doing this every week. It's comfortable for me. It doesn't feel like a special occasion anymore. I think for them, it feels like this is like they're so excited. They get the dopamine hit every time that they know a session's coming up. For me, we've been playing so long that I'm like, cool, yeah, we got D&D this weekend. I know it's coming up. I'm always excited for it, but like it's not as special as it was in college when the hurricane hit and 5 days in a row we could play D&D.
Yeah, absolutely. But to your point, I think there is also an element of playing in person that really, we've been making do online for the past few months now, which, it's been great that we get to play at all, and we're super regular, which a lot of groups don't get to do that either. But I definitely think, if you're in the room with a bunch of other people, there's just sort of like a magnetism to the stakes, and even if it's sort of a session where not a lot happens, you get a better chance to cut up with each other and get excited about you rolled a nat 1 and everyone laughs, or you roll a nat 20 and everyone screams at the top of their lungs.
I'm trying out some new things as well, where like I don't have my DM screen or anything here yet, or like a table, and so what I've been doing is I've just been rolling in front of them. and letting them see what I roll. And sometimes it's like, wow, I'm really not doing good right now. And then other times they look at me and they're like, what the hell? And I'm like, I'm sorry, like you're looking at it. I can't do anything about it. So I have enjoyed that because there's not even a question of whether I if I fudged a roll or something like that, Well,
that's cool too, because there was always that element with in our first campaign, because our original DM, Lanky Eric, did like to roll out of our view for a lot of things, and there was one particular fudged roll that we all saw, and so that sort of made us think, oh, I guess that can just happen. But I do like that your players get to sort of buy in a little bit more because you're rolling out in front of them. And for a lot of things, I don't really think that, in previous years I was a bigger proponent for fudge the rolls if you need to. But at this point, I think that there's enough that you can do it as the DM to say, well, if I don't want something bad to come from this, then I can just say there doesn't need to be a roll. But if I'm going to roll, then I'm going to let whatever happen from that. So that's I think that's sort of an advanced DM skill that you only see from, maybe people have been playing for a little bit longer. But the inverse works well as well. It just depends on your group.
Yeah, I have found myself getting in a few more situations where I'm like, yeah, you don't really need to roll for that. Like, you're a thief. This is a simple lock. I didn't put a DC on the lock, so you open it.
Sure, yeah. If it wasn't intended to be a problem that the party needs to overcome, like, say, for example, if there's not guards chasing them and there's not something interesting that's going to come of it if they fail, then just have them succeed.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. I feel like there's a couple of like little DM things I learned too, like just along the way, where I've become a lot more comfortable with planning something that may or may not ever see the light of day. For instance, in this last session, I think it was 4 traps that were planned on my paper, and I didn't know which ones they were going to fall into. I was kind of making and describing the dungeon as I went. I had sort of like this brief description, but I didn't really know exactly what I wanted it to look like. And so basically the Shadow Master, this very tropey villain that they're hunting down for their first mission, his base is carved into the side of this ravine out in the whatever woods it was in. And
one of them.
And so in the side of this ravine, his base is like carved out. You can tell this is like a residential place, but it also looks like a natural rock formation. And as they come walking up, I gave them 3 paths. I was like, you can go around the left side of the ravine and take a path you see that leads around. You can go around the right side, or you can go directly through the middle because a path does go like down the center of the ravine and back up to where you can see the Shadow Master's base. And they were like, well, we're just gonna walk right up. And I was like, cool. So there was this pit trap that was about like 40 feet out of the front. Out of the front, it was just like an illusionary pit trap. It's there because if someone decides to walk right up to the base, then they fall in. So they made deck saves. One guy fell in. It was like, aha, what an idiot. And then they go up to the front door, which is wide open, no guards, and they can see torchlight on the inside. Suspicious, probably because there's a trap or something set. And so they were like, we're gonna go around. We're not going in the front door, DM. We know you left it open for a reason. And so they go up to all these, like, I described that there were a ton of like little small caves around. And I was like, okay, which way would you like to go? So they go to the nearest one up to like the top right of the main entrance. So they climb these rocks, they go into this cave. And how I had it set up is these caves are all linked and they just constantly move and reconnect with one another. So it's like a big labyrinth that you're just meant to get stuck in. So the way they ended up planning out of it was it shot them out like another side of the tunnels. And so they were like, okay, this thing's messing with us. We didn't mean to go this way. We wouldn't have gone this way. This thing's messing with us. So they laid rope down and like tied all their ropes together and went a couple hundred feet until one of the walls shifted and found out where it shifted and then pulled it apart to get inside.
Ooh, that's cool.
It was a creative idea. And I was like, I didn't really know how they were going to solve it. I just planned the trap. And I was happy that that was their idea. They were like, we're going to force this thing apart. We'll get our rope back and we're going to get in because we can navigate these things. So they navigate it. And then I had two more traps planned, one of which the rogue walks up to the door. It was supposed to be they open the door, and when they get into the next room, gas vents go off and the doors lock. But the rogue rolled like a 25 on these tools and he disarms it. And me being in my head, I was, old me DMing might have found a way to include that trap somewhere else, right? Where it's like, okay, yeah, you disarmed this trap, but there's another one somewhere else. But now I was like, sure. No, like they got out of that trap. That's good. Like that's a good thing. Now this doesn't happen to them.
Yeah, I'm impressed at how good it sounds like your players were in general at avoiding these more complex issues. In general, I think that it can be both a blessing and a curse to be a veteran D&D player because you have this extensive knowledge of, oh yeah, well, yeah, there could always be traps or there could always be whatever. But if we're playing every week, occasionally you'll just be like, well, Seth hasn't thrown many traps at us lately, so we'll just walk in and see what happens.
Yeah.
But when you're newer, you sort of have that wonderment of, oh, okay, well, everything's sort of a puzzle to solve. And if you're a good DM, you can even see your players thinking, oh, well, we got to find some way around this, and sort of lean into that and say, oh, well, I didn't necessarily think that what you just described would be a solution to this problem, but I like it, so we'll run with it.
And so I've also been trying to take I've watched a good bit of Brennan Lee Mulligan and of Matthew Mercer, right? I've watched a good bit of their stuff. I probably watched a lot more Matthew Mercer stuff, but I like the way Brennan Lee Mulligan DMs a little bit more, only because I like that if a character should know something, he'll just go ahead and describe it without any checks, So
yeah,
there was a point where they were walking through, and I was describing the next room that they went into, the room that they had unlocked and untrapped. As they go in, I'm describing kind of like there are a couple little air vents up there, maybe it has something to do with what you just disarmed. And I'm also just describing this room, which they were very much like, what the hell is up with this room? It was like a table. It was like some bowls that were already set up. They didn't look like they had been eaten out of. They looked like they had been dusty and sitting there for a while. There was like a hearth and a fireplace, but also just dusty and not used. But this place has been well trodden. People have walked through here probably. Just nothing's been touched. And they were like, what the hell is up with this? And I was like, from your numerous escapades, from things that specifically like this character has been through, you can probably suss out that this room, like, why would they trap a room that they frequently use? So they probably just leave this room here for people who navigate the maze, right? And I'm like, this room is not touched, because if someone comes in here and someone accidentally opens that door, now they die. So no one comes in here. And And so I described that to them, and they were like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." And I loved having that moment of like, "Yeah, see, the thing I just made up off the top of my head made sense. Of course it did."
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you, in general, do you prefer running for newer players? I mean, it typically when you have like a newer group, you're going to be playing like a lower level session to get everyone into it. And a lot of our sessions have been more high level stuff, just because we've been playing a long running campaign where we get to high level. But what's your preferred sort of DMing situation?
Yeah, I like extremely long narratives, and no one's new for more than like 10 sessions in my head, you know? So I definitely prefer the experienced player, the long running campaign where everybody's committed and we know we're going to do this like epic story. That's definitely what I prefer. So like if you're asking do I prefer, like running this new and teaching new people how to play the game, or do I prefer, you know, having you guys know what you're doing, saying, "Hey, I want to run this cool creative thing, who's in?" and you all show up. I definitely prefer just being like, "I'm doing this big epic thing, let's do it."
Yeah. Well, and that's definitely where I lean as well. And we have the the platonic ideal of that's a good point that you made. No group stays new for all that long.
Yeah.
So if you can get a group consistently showing up and committing to playing, then you're going to turn a creative new group into a veteran table without
Yeah, once they've got those, there's always new stuff for them to learn, especially with all the supplements we've gotten over the past few years. So they'll always be discovering new things as players that we probably already know as like people who have kept up with it. But yeah, once you learn the basics of the game and you know how to take a turn properly, you know how to leave room for other people to talk, then I feel like you're not that much of a new player anymore. Though, I mean, sometimes with our 6-year-long group, one or two of us will seem like a new player for a day or two. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's always a thing, too, where it's like, we don't know everything as veteran players, even when it comes into it. I didn't know that apparently, does Action Surge only give you an action, or does it also give you a bonus action?
So rules as written, Action Surge only gives you an extra action. But this entire time that we've been playing, we've been giving it an extra action and an extra bonus.
Because I had a player do it the other day with an extra bonus action, too. And then one of my players came back the other day and was like, I looked it up, and I don't think I get an extra bonus action, too. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I mean, whatever. Like, it doesn't affect me that much.
That's a favorite table rule of ours.
Yeah, I don't mind it giving you an extra bonus action. I mean, it does up the idea of multi-classing into it, I guess.
Sure, but Fighter isn't all that powerful compared to some of the other shit that you get. So I don't mind giving it that little extra bit. And usually when we're getting that extra bonus action, it's because you need it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I think it's because we read it one time and thought it did, and then we just went with it forever.
Yeah, that was another from our first campaign thing.
So I don't know. To be honest, when it comes to like rules as written things and things that we've just been kind of doing, if it's never caused a problem, I don't really care.
Yeah, same.
But yeah, so I did want to ask you, because you just recently did a session one with us the other day. We're veteran players. You got to run it for all your buds, and I don't know if you've run something you're deciding as for a campaign for a while, especially for a group of us who have been playing for so long. So what did you think? How did you feel? Go ahead.
Well, yeah, so to let everyone know, I think you mentioned it earlier, but I ran you guys through your first session of Out of the Abyss, which I chose this campaign because I've been looking at it for a long time. I like the themes and sort of where it goes, but I think that this is a good one for a veteran table to start with. I would not recommend this for a new group of players, just because the first little bit is so brutal, and it's really unlike most of our sessions of D&D up until now, so I thought it'd be an interesting challenge to sort of throw you guys into it. And so I won't spoil necessarily the circumstances of it if any of you are maybe going to run Out of the Abyss or playing it in the future, but needless to say, there was a TPK, which is the first time I've ever done that. And yeah, that was... I don't know, man. It was rough for me as a DM because I always want to see you guys succeed, but ultimately I think there's this level of buy-in from the group that we have where a newer group of players might have seen that and gotten really discouraged, but since we're a veteran group and we've all we understand our table dynamic. I think it's something that is going to pay off in the long run. And obviously you all didn't, I'll say that you all didn't die. But we ended the session right at the, everyone drops to 0 hit points moment. So
yeah,
you'll see what happens, coming up, but I'm super excited to get into it, as we continue on. But that's really, I think one of the greatest strengths of having a veteran group is, you have that freedom to sort of beat you guys down and build you back up, more or less, where if I tried to pull this shit for a newer group, I'd probably get 1 or 2 people saying, I don't think this game's for me, actually.
Yeah, where it's like, oh yeah, he really wanted to win today, didn't he? One of my players actually thought whenever we started playing, he was like, yeah, so is it really fair that you know everything, like talking about me? Like it wasn't a person who was playing, it was someone who hadn't played and wanted to watch the session. So I let one of like my battle buddies, he wanted to come in and watch the session. I was like, sure, come watch the session, see if you like it. He was like, so they're playing against you? And I was like, well, we're kind of just telling this collective story. And he goes, so you know everything that happens. That's not really fair because you play the enemies. And I was like, wait. I was like, no, I want them to succeed. So I set balanced stakes for them, Like, I want you guys to succeed, but if you play stupidly, then stupid things happen.
Yeah, my job is just to give the players the problem to solve.
Exactly.
And then be fair about it with whatever happens.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the problem to solve, as a veteran player, but someone who doesn't play that often, the other day I was like, what am I supposed to do? I was so in my head because I was like, I should be able to figure this out. And I felt like Sean was kind of getting on that same route as well, where like both him and I were like, we need to solve this problem right now. And then I think that both Drew and Chase had the mindset that you wanted them to have of, okay, well, let's just wait it out and see. And so we were all kind of diametrically opposed. We're like, Sean and I are ready to figure out the problem. And the two of them are like, not trying to figure out immediately, where I'm trying to be in my character's head. Like whenever I played Elijah, where like I'm acting like my character, and my character just lost both of his arms. He wants to leave.
So I did cut both your arms off. So really, I should have expected you to react that way.
Yeah, and he is dumb, and he is like he's very hopeful and nice, and so I was like, well, he doesn't think it's this guy's fault; it's that mean lady's fault. So he's gonna talk to them. He's gonna get as much info as he can. So I was like, well, how long do you think I'm gonna be here? Like, how long do you think I'm gonna have to do this? Like, when do you think I can get my arms back? And then when he said no, I was like, no? What do you mean? No, I'm getting them back, right? And then when he said I'm not getting them back, it was like, oh, I'm angry now. And
yeah. Which I don't think it ruins anything to tell you now, Seth. But of course, obviously, there is a way for you to get your arms back.
Well, no, I fully believed that I was losing them, and I was okay with it because I was like, well, I'm a monk. I don't need arms.
Right. Well, and you're an astral self monk
who can
so
summon
you've got
arms.
your little your spectral arms. So I just thought that was if I were playing an astral monk, I would secretly want my DM to cut my arms off because I really like the flavor of that.
Well, and I really didn't mind it. Like when it happened, like I'm always open to like narrative plot points, and I was like, oh, this is great for my character. Like in the worst way possible, this is great for my character. And so I'm always into that stuff. So I was like, well, even if he is, even if it does make it so when my character has to RP that he's eating, he has to spend a key point. That's fine. So
you learn to eat with your feet.
Yeah. And so in my head, I was just like, okay, this isn't a problem. But I really wanted to like solve the puzzle. I was like, something's got to be going on here. I bet all we have to do is get out of here and jump in that waterfall, I bet all we have to do is get out of here and find the exit. And then figure out how to oppose these drow. or whatever's going on. So that was what was happening in my head. And then when speaking to like all the NPCs and stuff, I was like, man, I'm a little bit confused. And the hard thing for me was sitting here and then realizing it had been 3 hours and nothing had happened yet. And I was like, other than I lost something, and then Sean lost his familiar. I was like, well, all we're doing is sitting here and losing things. What do we do?
Yeah.
So I did have fun. I don't want you to think that I didn't have a good time. I thought it was a good session. And I'm looking forward to seeing where the campaign goes from here, because I'm sure you've got some sort of solution that goes along with it. And then, we still are on the edge of our seats all the time about dying.
Yeah, well, and the intention, without giving too much away about sort of the forward trajectory, is that you start at the lowest point possible and you can only go up from here. So it'll be tough, but I think it's going to be a fun challenge for you guys, and obviously I know you can handle it. But I didn't want to. There are a couple of railroady elements of the first chapter as written in the book that I didn't want to just say, oh, well, here's the solution for you. I kind of wanted to put you in the situation and see what you do.
Yeah, the only railroady element that I disliked was the 24-hour rule on being able to make checks on things. That was probably the only thing I don't like, is because whenever things like that come up, I'm like, you need to make that make sense to me. Because it was kind of like, you remember when we did the one-off a long time ago? It was like my first or second one-off I was running. And you broke into this really nice palace in Snowhaven, or like this nice building.
Yes,
and you were like,
remember.
I was like, oh no, it just doesn't work. And you were like, well, why? And I didn't have an explanation, so I just let you keep doing it. Because I still don't really have an explanation for why I can't continue to do something. Because it's a game mechanic. Because that's what it is. It's like, realistically, it's a game mechanic. And for the way I always do D&D, and obviously we're different DMs, so that's fine. But like I'm always like, it doesn't make sense to me. I can't do it. Like if I read that in Storm Kings, I'd be like, I can't do that. Like, that's impossible.
Right. Well, if you're trying to, so in my mind, if you're trying to do something difficult, like pick a lock, and if at first you don't succeed, I take that first roll as this is you attempting to pick the lock for this entire time. Like, it's a lock. It's not meant for you to bust it open. And if you don't have the skills to bust it open, you're not going to magically gain the skills to bust it open in the next seconds.
That makes sense. And described to me in that way makes a lot more sense than saying, yeah, you're just not allowed to try again for 24 hours. It's like, yeah, it just seems like you're not really, maybe you need to like rethink on this, or like me trying to break it apart. I sit there, I'm trying to break it apart. It's like, it just doesn't seem like it's working for you. Like, whatever. I don't know. It's always just really weird to me in it where it's like, yeah, very real. Like, okay, but after this 24 hours, you can do it again.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. Rules like that are always weird to me. And I feel like they're a product of a lot of the older modules too. Where they come up with things like that, and it's just like, well, that's weird. But nowadays it feels like it's more of a things come along as more of like plot devices, or they come along as more of like, I don't know, they don't include things like that.
It's game design, Yeah, for sure. And to your point, that is sort of like I wish that I could just do this thing to solve the problem. But what I'll say is a benefit of that, and the reason why I decided to go through with it is it encourages creative problem solving, because not to give too much away, but you guys were chained up and shackled, and you couldn't break free of your bonds. And obviously the first thing every D&D player thinks is, well, can I just get out? And I'm sure every prisoner thinks that in real life too. Like, oh, I've got handcuffs. Well, can't I just break out? But what happens if you can't? So,
well, and I'll tell you what happens if you can't. You summon your spectral arms. Someone sees it and they go, boss, this guy's got ghost arms, and they just cut him off, and then all you have is ghost arms.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Which I think was great, because the way you explained it after the session, you were like, well, yeah, I knew Seth was going to use his powers here. Why wouldn't he? And key points are expendable. I see key points as very expendable as a monk, so I was like, well, 10 minutes, I get my arms. Like, let's try to solve this problem like real quick. And so when trying to break out with the spectral arms, it was like, okay, cool, this works. And probably if I had waited and hit him the next day, it would have been fine. But then they took the manacles off for me, so it wasn't that big a deal.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need manacles if you don't have arms.
Oh, and one of the coolest things I think that we got out of the session was the mushroom guy. He was cool.
Yeah.
He was cool. The way his powers work are cool. And I was like, I never thought of a character that could do something like this, and this is really interesting.
Well, yeah, and we didn't get into it too much, but sort of the idea is all these characters speak different languages, and so the main way that you're able to communicate with all these people is because you have a little mushroom man who can allow everyone to speak telepathically.
Yeah, and I did mean it when I said that whenever I speak to someone in Undercommon, I'm gonna have Chinese phrases prepared.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna look at this guy and I'm gonna go, Nida Lao Jia Zainar, and you're gonna go be like, what? And I'm gonna be like, I asked him where his home is.
Oh, sorry, I don't speak Italian.
Yeah. I'll be like, I asked him where his home is. It's like I capture a guy, he's a bad boy, and freaking capture him and ask him who his daddy is.
Who is your daddy? Who does he work for?
Gosh. I'd just be like, I don't even want to think in Chinese right now. It's Juneteenth.
Yeah. It is too early for this.
It's too early. I have to do homework right after this. So anyways, yeah, I'm enjoying starting a new campaign as a player. I hope that you keep up with it in these off weeks, because it seems like we're going to have a good bit of off weeks from the main campaign, which, let me tell you, that's the most frustrating thing to me as someone who is almost done planning the rest of the campaign. Like, I have little more that I can plan.
Yeah, I cannot wait for us to get to that. And speaking of, that reminds me, we have to have our super secret conversation without Drew about a particular character who might be returning.
Right. Yeah, I was planning the other day, and I thought of that character and thought, shit, he has to be included. Because I hadn't thought about it in a while, and I was like, okay, I know where I'd like this character to be. Now we have to actually plan it out.
Yeah, I got to find that. I made a whole stat block for him and everything. I got to find.
So I have a monster stat block for him too. That cool. I made out, which I think it's basically like his corrupted warlock stat block. That I'm cool. Looking forward to using. He's like a CR 16.
Yeah, he better be. They're gonna have to get through him.
Yeah.
He's got to be.
No, you have no idea how excited I am to get through this campaign. And honestly, if I want to play, I would like to play with you guys, like DMing or like me DMing a little more often than these like every 3 weeks again. So when we get on to something else, I might have to do something like rework around either who's playing or like figure out what the schedule can be so that we can play a little more frequently. Because I have a lot of story that I need to get through that I would like to get through in the Spelljammer arc too. That's going to tie together so much stuff over the years.
Yeah, we got to do some. I don't know. We do it all on the holodeck, or we're in a spaceship and they're beaming us down for particular missions. But Chase can't be there today, so Chase he's resting up in the medical bay.
Or like say that we have a character like if Patrick makes a new character and you guys usually leave a guard back on the ship or something like that. Like someone stays back on the ship most of the time, so he's staying back this time, or anything like that. Because no major spoilers, but Spelljammer will tie into everything else that we've played so far. And then the stuff I have planned after that will tie into everything that's happened. So like we're just upping the stakes right now until we get to the big thing, and then I have to figure new stuff out. But yeah, the plot from Avertus here is gonna matter a lot going into the way future. Not the immediate future when we're doing Flash Gordon stuff.
No, but I can't wait to be shooting space lasers and fighting guys with my hippo kung fu, if that's what I end up doing.
Well, I think that's a good spot to end this episode of Table Talk Friday. Thank you guys so much for listening this week. To Zach and I kind of shoot the shit about new players, old players, the campaigns we're running right now, and everything we'd like to do in the future, and also just our preferences as far as like a lot of things go when it comes to DMing and having players at the table. If you don't know already, if you're listening to us on like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere like that, you can actually find us on patreon.com/tabletalk Friday, where good old gamer supports us every single month. We have a couple other patrons over there, and we're just loving the fact that you guys come over there for all this post-show content, getting the episodes a little bit earlier, and so many other benefits that you have to go to patreon.com/tabletalk Friday to check out. But with that, I think I need for the Kung Fu Hippo to take me out.
Oh boy, you should not have summoned me today. Ooh, no, 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 no. Ooh, no, 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 because I am the Kung Fu Hippo. And I'm just so great at ending shows, but before I end shows, I break skulls. So you better watch out, because I'm gonna break your skull with my big hand. It's not hard at all for me to do with my big hand. I just put my hand on your head and I squeeze a little bit, and that breaks your skull. Or I guess I could do it with my teeth, because we have really scary teeth. You know, it's kind of cute when we're drawn in like a cartoon way, but like a real ass hippo, you don't even want to know, brother.
Jesus.
And thank you for listening to Table Talk Friday.